We live in interesting times.
For the headlines.
Terrified holidaymakers rushed for boats and planes to leave Indonesia's Lombok Island after it suffered a second deadly quake within a week, as rescuers struggle to reach hard-hit areas where survivors are in urgent need of food and shelter.
U.S. reimposes sanctions on Iran that had been lifted under a historic nuclear agreement, now abandoned by President Trump.
Two blazes mercilessly charring Northern California have grown so rapidly that they've become the U.S. state's largest in recorded history.
And hundreds of people crowd in a giant pool for respite from soaring temperatures as Chinese meteorologists renewed a yellow alert with a heat wave persisting in most parts of the country.
I'm Alma Angeles, wherever you're watching from around the world. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
We welcome our viewers here in the Philippines and around the world. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sam Cepeda.
And now to the news. Terrified holidaymakers rushed for boats and planes to leave Indonesia's Lombok Island after it suffered a second deadly quake within a week, while rescuers still struggling to reach hard-hit areas where survivors are in urgent need of food and shelter. The shallow 6.9 magnitude quake killed at least 105 people and destroyed thousands of buildings in Lombok on Sunday. This was just days after another deadly tremor surged through the holiday island and killed 17. Rescuers on Tuesday resumed the search for survivors and to recover the bodies of victims in the rubble of houses, mosques, and schools destroyed in the latest disaster. Now, more than 20,000 people are believed to have been made homeless on Lombok, with 236 severely injured, and authorities have appealed for more medical personnel and basic supplies. Emergency crews were Tuesday working through a wreckage of a collapsed mosque in the northern village of Lading-Lading, where authorities fear a number of people are trapped. At least one body has been recovered from the rubble of the mosque, which was reduced to a pile of concrete and metal bars with its towering green dome folded in on itself. Now, some 4,600 tourists have been evacuated from the Gili Islands, three tiny coral fringe tropical islands that lie off the northwest coast of Lombok and are popular with backpackers and divers. Hundreds crowded onto its powder white beaches on Monday, desperately awaiting transport of the normally paradise destination. 7 Indonesian holidaymakers died on the largest of the 3 Gili Cawangan.
At least 2 people were killed and more than 60 others injured Monday when a tanker truck crashed into a lorry and exploded, sending a fireball across a busy motorway in the northern Italian city of Bologna. The blast occurred in the early afternoon in the Borgo Panigale or Panigale area close to Bologna airport. A video released by the police shows the moment the tanker plowed into the back of the lorry, immediately catching fire as another lorry crashed into the back of the blazing tanker and oncoming traffic screeched to a halt. Most of the injured suffered burns, with police and firefighters among the most seriously hurt. Others were injured by pieces of flying debris and glass the explosion caused in the surrounding area. Speaking to television news channel Sky TG24, police officers said that the extremely high temperatures from the fire and the blast caused the road to collapse. Fears of a terrorist attack still rattle Bologna, which just last week marked the anniversary of a far-right attack on the train station that left 85 people dead and more than 200 wounded in 1980. It took firefighters nearly 2 hours to extinguish the fireball, which spread to vehicles parked in a nearby lot of a car dealership.
Two fires mercilessly roaring through Northern California have grown so rapidly that they're now the largest ever to ravage the state. Take a look. Collectively dubbed the Mendocino Complex, the wildfires have burned through 283,800 acres, an area nearly the size of the sprawling city of Los Angeles, and are just 30% contained, according to State Fire Authority CAL FIRE. 2 people have died in the inferno, taking to 11 the number of people killed by major fires that broke out last month and are still ongoing. It was the second fire to break records in the fire-prone, most populous U.S. state in as many years, following the Thomas Fire in December 2017, which destroyed 281,893 acres. Further north in the state, the deadly Carr Fire has burned through more than 164,400 acres since July 23 and killed another 7 people along the way. Its intensity was so great at one point that it generated a tornado-like firestorm as well as its own weather system. Authorities say it was triggered by the mechanical failure of a vehicle that caused sparks to fly in tinderbox dry conditions. The wildfires are extremely fast, extremely aggressive, extremely dangerous, according to Scott McLean, a deputy chief with the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection.
The United States reimposed a wave of tough unilateral sanctions against Iran on Tuesday, bringing back into effect harsh penalties that had been lifted under a historic multi-party nuclear agreement that President Donald Trump abandoned in May. The first of 2 rounds of U.S. sanctions kicked in at 12:01 a.m., or that's 0431 GMT, targeting Iran's access to U.S. banknotes and key industries, including cars and carpets. Iranians are already seeing the effects of the sanctions, with Iran's real currency losing around half its value since Trump announced the U.S. would withdraw from the 2015 nuclear accord. Trump's contempt for the nuclear deal dates back to his time as presidential candidate, and on May 8, he made good on a pledge to pull America out of the international agreement. He blasted the agreement yet again Monday, calling it a horrible one-sided deal that failed to achieve the fundamental objective of blocking all paths to an Iranian nuclear bomb.
The Iran nuclear deal, it's a horror show. I hope it works out well with Iran. They're having a lot of difficulty right now. I hope it works out well. And I have a feeling they'll be talking to us pretty soon.
Now, President Trump said he was open to reaching a more comprehensive deal with Iran that addresses the full range of the regime's malign activities, including its ballistic missile program and its support for terrorism. But Iranian President Hassan Rouhani was unimpressed by the offer. He said that Washington's call for new nuclear negotiations at the same time the U.S. reimposes crippling sanctions, quote, makes no sense.
مخاطب اونها این است که بخوان در این جنگ روانی مردم ایران رو دچار تردید بکنن و برای انتخابات کنگره در ماه‌های آینده بخوان استفاده بکنن. بنابراین حرفای ترامپ یا برای بهره برداری داخلی برای انتخابات یا برای جنگ روانی با مردم ایران. کسی که از مذاکره خارج شده و پشت کرده به مذاکره ترامپ هست و دولت ترامپ هست و کاری که داره انجام میده کاری است که بر علیه ملت ایران و منافع ملی ایرانه. بنابراین اگر صداقت باشه ایران همواره از مذاکره استقبال کرده.
John Glaser, Director of Foreign Policy Studies at the Cato Institute, noted that the U.S. sees the sanctions as a tool to pressure Iran to come back to the negotiating table to rehash the nuclear deal on terms more to Trump's liking that is not going to happen. The second phase of U.S. sanctions, which takes effect on November 5 and will block Iran's oil sales, is due to cause more damage. Though several countries, including China, India, and Turkey, have indicated they're not willing to entirely cut their Iranian energy purchases.
Iranians look at cars in a showroom in the capital Tehran and react to American sanctions that are targeting Iranians' access to U.S. banknotes and key economic sectors, including the automobile industry.
قطعا بی تأثیر نیست. قطعا بی تأثیر نیست. به هر صورت هر تحریمی یه محدودیت ایجاد میکنه. ببینید مردم به هر صورت نیاز دارن. بر اساس اینکه بتونن قدرت خرید اون موقع شرط میشه دیگه. مثلا طرف توانایی خرید یه ماشین مثلا 60 میلیونی رو داشته، حالا مجبوره یاد پایین‌تر ماشین مدل پایین‌تری بخره.
French car maker Renault, which does not sell cars in the U.S., has said it will remain in Iran despite the sanctions. But French oil group Total and car maker PSA have already indicated they are likely to pull out of Iran. The U.S. sanctions will come in two phases based on the 90-day and 180-day wind-down periods set by the U.S. Department of Treasury. Counting from May 8, when Trump made his announcement, the first phase takes effect on August 7 after the 90-day wind-down expires on August 6. The second and bigger phase, targeting Iran's energy industry, will take effect on November 5. In an executive order, Trump said the sanctions seek to pile financial pressure on Tehran to force a comprehensive and lasting solution to Iranian threats, including its development of missiles and regional malign activities.
We'll take a short break. Eagle News International. We'll be right back. Welcome back. A luxury yacht allegedly paid forward funds from a multi-billion-dollar scandal that helped topple Malaysia's government arrived outside Kuala Lumpur Tuesday, with authorities hoping it'll help in their prosecution of the country's disgraced former leader. The 300-foot Equanimity, equipped with pool, helicopter, landing pad, and cinema, belonged to Joe Lau, a flamboyant international financier who allegedly played a central role in the 1MDB controversy that has engulfed former Prime Minister Najib Razak. The yacht, worth about $250 million, was handed over by Indonesian authorities who had seized it off the tourist island of Bali in February. The large blue and white boat arrived in Port Klang, west of the capital, after setting sail from the Indonesian island of Batam. It was accompanied by a Malaysian Navy frigate and 3 smaller vessels. Indonesian authorities impounded the boat on a request from the U.S. Department of Justice, which is seeking to seize $1.7 billion worth of assets allegedly bought with money looted from Malaysian Sovereign Wealth Fund 1MDB. Najib, his cronies, and family members are accused of stealing huge sums from 1MDB in a sophisticated fraud that spanned the globe. The ex-prime minister was arrested and charged with corruption last month. Najib, who set up and oversaw 1MDB, denies any wrongdoing.
A German court Tuesday handed down lengthy jail sentences to a couple for repeatedly sexually abusing their young son and selling him to pedophiles online for more than 2 years. In a case that shocked the country and raised serious questions about child protection services in Germany, the regional court in Freiburg sentenced the boy's mother, Berin Taha, to 12.5 years in prison. Her husband, Christian Leys, the boy's stepfather, whom he called Papa, received a 12-year sentence followed by preventive detention. Leys, 39, had a previous conviction for child abuse, raising questions why he was allowed to live in a home with the child present. The court found that the unemployed couple had sexually assaulted the boy, now 10, and pimped him on the so-called darknet between May 15 and August 2017. They were convicted of rape, aggravated sexual assault of children, forced prostitution, and distribution of child pornography. The couple was also ordered to pay a total of 42,500 euros in damages to the boy and another victim, a girl. The case came to light following an anonymous tip-off last September and led to the arrest of 8 people who have been charged with belonging to an online pedophile ring. The boy is in foster care, where he is doing well under the circumstances, according to a state lawyer.
Gulf News reports that Dubai police is investigating the case of a Filipina who bled to her death last week. Take a look. Angel Pauya Trasadas died on July 29 after bleeding profusely while working as a part-time maid in one of the flats in the China cluster in International City. Her friend told the Gulf News, on condition of anonymity, that Trasadas had told her that she was pregnant. But because it was a pregnancy out of wedlock, she decided not to continue with it. Her friend said that, quote, she was scared, she had overstayed and had no visa since 2016. I advised her numerous times not to terminate her pregnancy and to wait for the amnesty that would begin just days away on August 1. Trasada's friend added that she was a victim of domestic violence. She was forced to flee from her knife-wielding partner, who threatened to kill her for not providing for the family. She had just given birth to her second child then. Her cousin, Peter Pauya, said her family had been in contact with the Department of Foreign Affairs. Philippine Consul General Paul Raymond Cortes assured the family that Trasada's remains will be repatriated to her hometown once police investigations are completed.
Days of protests over road safety in Bangladesh looked to be fizzling out Tuesday after around 150 people were injured in clashes with riot police and pro-government thugs wielding iron bars. 9 days of protests saw tens of thousands of teenagers and students paralyze traffic in the capital Dhaka and beyond. 8 buses were torched and hundreds of vehicles vandalized. Police responded with tear gas and rubber bullets, while allegedly pro-government mobs attacked demonstrators, photographers, and even the U.S. ambassador's car. Students said on Tuesday that many went back to school as they fear further government repression if the protests continue. The protests initially by high schoolers and then students were to demand better safety on Bangladesh's chaotic and corruption-riddled transport network after a bus killed 2 teens on July 29. At least 7,397 people, around 20 a day, died in road accidents last year, up nearly a quarter from 2016, according to the Private Passengers Welfare Association.
To other news now, U.S. First Daughter Ivanka Trump says that journalists are not the enemy of the people, distancing herself from her father's relentless condemnation of the media, attacks that have raised the levels of anti-press antagonism at his recent rallies. Take a look.
We have a number of our colleagues here on the press. Do you think that we're the enemy of the people?
Sorry?
Do you think the media is the enemy of the people?
No, I do not.
That's not a view that's shared in your family.
Are you looking for me to elaborate?
Sure.
No, I don't.
How do you
I mean, I certainly have. I can share my own personal perspective. I've certainly received my fair share of reporting on me personally that I know not to be fully accurate. So I've, I have some sensitivity around why people have concerns and gripe, especially when they're sort of feel targeted. But no, I do not feel that the media is the enemy of the people.
Meanwhile, in a tense press briefing showdown, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders declined to acknowledge that the media is not the enemy of the people. CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta confronted Sanders over her claim that President Trump is rightfully frustrated when he calls the press the enemy of the people, as he did in a July tweet. Take a look.
I just wanted to follow up on Sarah's question from NPR. She asked you about Ivanka Trump's statement that the press is not the enemy of the people. And she asked you whether or not the press is the enemy of the people. You read off a laundry list of your concerns about the press and things that you feel like are misreported, but you did not say that the press is not the enemy of the people. And I think it would be a good thing if you were to say right here at this briefing that the press, the people who are gathered in this room right now, doing their jobs every day, asking questions of officials like the ones you brought forward earlier, are not the enemy of the people. I think we deserve that.
I think the president has made his position known. I also think it's ironic.
Would you mind telling us,
I'm trying to answer your question.
Okay, well,
I politely waited, and I even called on you despite the fact that you interrupted me while calling on your colleague.
Well,
I said it's ironic.
Which is why I interrupted.
I'm trying.
But if you finish, if you would not mind letting me have a follow-up, that would be fine. But
It's ironic, Jim, that not only you and the media attack the president for his rhetoric when they frequently lower the level of conversation in this country. Repeatedly, the media resorts to personal attacks without any content other than to incite anger. The media has attacked me personally on a number of occasions, including your own network, said I should be harassed as a life sentence, that I should be choked. ICE officials are not welcomed in their place of worship, and personal information is shared on the internet. When I was hosted by the Correspondents Association, of which almost all of you are members of, you brought a comedian up to attack my appearance and call me a traitor to my own gender. In fact, as I know, as far as I know, I'm the first press secretary in the history of the United States that's required Secret Service protection. The media continues to ratchet up the verbal assault against the president and everyone in this administration, and certainly we have a role to play, but the media has a role to play for the discourse in this country as well.
And Sarah, if you don't mind, if I may follow up, excuse me, you did not say in the course of those remarks that you just made that the press is not the enemy of the people. Are we to take it from what you just said? We all get put through the ringer. We all get put in the meat grinder in this town, and you're no exception. And I'm sorry that that happened to you. I wish that had not happened. But for the sake of this room, the people who are in this room, this democracy, this country, all the people around the world are watching what you're saying, Sarah, and the White House for the United States of America, the President of the United States should not refer to us as the enemy of the people. His own daughter acknowledges that, and all I'm asking you to do, Sarah, is to acknowledge that right now and right here.
I appreciate your passion. I share it. I've addressed this question. I've addressed my personal feelings. I'm here to speak on behalf of the President. He's made his comments clear.
On another matter, the National Archives told...
Eagle News International will be right back. Stay tuned.
World that brings you back to that natural, carefree feeling of joy and happiness. A place where art becomes your song to strengthen bonds. Creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. A world that recaptures the value of life. Breathe. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Ba't parang sobrang big deal po sa inyong magbigay isa?
Ay, ma'am. Ay, kasali na naman. Teka lang, paggulo. Huwag naman natin sisihin ng sisihin na puro korap, palibasa nasa Mindanao. Hindi naman totoo yun eh. Kahit paano, nababa namin sa Ilocos yung level ng poverty. Ba't hindi magawa din sa Mindanao? Sobrang kawawa yung mga tao dun eh.
Welcome back. Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez III said the ambitious Build, Build, Build infrastructure program of the Duterte administration will turn Davao City into a manufacturing and agro-industry hub in the years ahead. Describing Davao City as the hottest spot in the nation's bright economic prospects, Dominguez said the area and the rest of Davao had long been gearing for rapid growth. He said massive investments in property development have already begun, anticipating broad-based and sustained growth far into the future. Dominguez also said among the road infrastructure projects already benefiting the people of Davao are the Miranda Bridge 2 at the Daang Maharlika in Davao del Norte, which now serves as the main access of motorists from Davao City going to other parts of the Davao region, and the Davao River Bridge, which was completed in April this year. Both projects had significantly reduced travel time within the region. He said the big-ticket infrastructure projects that the government is currently implementing in Davao are the Davao International Airport Development Project, that's expected to be completed in 2022, the Davao City Coastal Road Project that's going to be completed in 2021, the Mindanao Logistics Infrastructure Network involving the construction or improvement of the 2,567 kilometers of roads across the Davao, Caraga, and Northern Mindanao regions, and which is expected to be completed next year, and the Davao Public Transport Modernization Project.
Germany's second biggest lender, Commerzbank, on Tuesday posted better than expected earnings for the second quarter, although it expects slightly higher costs for the full year as it pushes on with restructuring. In the 3 months ending June, the bank recorded net profit reaching 272 million euros, well above the 213 million euros forecasted by analysts. The result was a sharp improvement from a loss of 640 million euros during the same period of a year ago, when the bank was forced to book significant charges due to a restructuring plan that included redundancies for 9,600 posts. However, the bank now sees costs rising slightly to 7.1 billion euros for the full year from 7.0 billion forecasted previously, due mainly to investments in its digitalization drive.
U.S. President Trump warned countries against doing business with Iran as he hailed the most biting sanctions ever imposed, triggering a mix of anger, fear, and defiance in Tehran. He said the Iran sanctions have officially been cast. These are the most biting sanctions ever imposed, and in November, they ratchet up to yet another level, Trump wrote in an early morning tweet. Anyone doing business with Iran will not be doing business with the United States. I'm asking for world peace, nothing less. Within hours of the sanctions taking effect, German automaker Daimler said it was halting its business activities in Iran. Trump's withdrawal from a landmark 2015 nuclear agreement in May had already spooked investors and triggered a run on the Iranian rial long before nuclear-related sanctions went back into force. The sanctions, reimposed on Tuesday, targeting access to U.S. banknotes and key industries such as cars and carpets, were unlikely to cause immediate economic turmoil. Iran's markets were actually relatively buoyant, with the rial strengthening by 20% since Sunday after the government relaxed foreign exchange rules and allowed unlimited tax-free gold and currency imports. But the second tranche on November 5, covering Iran's vital oil sector, could be far more damaging, even if several key customers such as China, India, and Turkey have refused to significantly cut their purchases.
Joel Robuchon, the world's most starred Michelin chef who tore down kitchen walls to give diners new insights into the art of cooking, died on Monday at 73. Robuchon, who was hailed as one of 4 chefs of the century by the Gold Milo Industry Bible in 1990, founded a string of restaurants that revolutionized fine dining across 3 continents, at one point ratcheting up a record 32 Michelin stars. He still had 24 stars at the time of his death, with foodies lining up from Tokyo to Paris and Macau for seats in his L'Atelier restaurants, where they can watch chefs in action perched on high stools at a U-shaped bar. Robuchon died of pancreatic cancer in Geneva, where he was planning to open a restaurant. His friend, food critic Gilles Podlowski, confirmed. President Emmanuel Macron lauded his role in the emergence of Nouvelle Cuisine, which did away the heavy sauces of favor of ultra-fresh vegetables and intricately crafted dishes. His signature creations included truffle tart, cauliflower cream with caviar, and langoustine ravioli, but he also elevated the humble potato with his smooth buttery mash, earning rave reviews.
Même mise en place, tablier blanc, attends.
Eagle News International will be right back.
Health is our most
TV shows. Para ugaliin ng pamilya ang responsableng panonood. Teamwork tayo, parents!
Rated G, good for all. Oops, rated PG.
Dapat may mga magulang para sagutin ang mga tanong ng kabataan.
Grabe, rated SPG, maselan!
Itan ang paggabay.
Pag rated MTRCB, rated responsable.
French police set up checks outside Paris where vehicles bearing the Crit Air 4 and 5 stickers, meaning they have high emissions, are prevented from entering the capital to try to reduce ozone pollution aggravated by the heat. Take a look.
Ça va pas servir à grand chose à part frustrer les conducteurs qui prennent des procès sans savoir que ça existe, quoi. C'est tout. Et pour obtenir cette vignette, il faut encore la payer aussi. Oui.
C'est normal parce que c'est pour la santé, c'est pour la vie des gens, du coup, c'est normal.
Ben, ils sont gentils, ils ne me mettent pas d'amende. Ils me laissent repartir, mais ils ne me mettent pas d'amende.
Les véhicules qui ont des vignettes critères 4, 5 ou non classées ne présentent que 12% des véhicules en circulation. La plupart du temps, les véhicules n'ont pas de vignette critères du tout.
Children and adults alike cool off in a fountain at Battery Park on a hot afternoon in Manhattan. New York City is enduring another day of intense heat with temperatures in the 90s and high humidity levels. Area beaches and pools have been experiencing low crowds as New Yorkers look for opportunities to stay cool. Combined with the humidity, it could feel like at least 100 degrees at times, accompanied by unhealthy air quality. Warm and humid weather will continue Tuesday night into Wednesday, with the cold front slowly moving into the area.
Meanwhile, hundreds of people crowd into a giant pool, creating what looks like a massive bowl of breakfast cereal Fruit Loops for a respite from soaring temperatures, as Chinese meteorologists renewed a yellow alert with a heat wave persisting in most parts of the country in China. Heat waves have become both more intense and more frequent since 1970, especially in the last 15 years. Average temperatures have gone up 1.35 degrees Celsius since 1950, nearly double the average global increase. But the human body's capacity to withstand extended bouts of heat also depends on how much moisture is in the air. So-called wet bulb temperatures take humidity into account, providing a better measure of potential health impacts.
Protecting people in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo from the latest Ebola virus outbreak is going to be very complex given the huge logistical challenges and ongoing conflict there, WHO has said. So far, around 20 people have died in North Kivu, and the overall case count is expected to rise in coming days. The alert was raised on 25th of July after a woman and many members of her immediate family died after exhibiting symptoms consistent with Ebola.
That event appears to have been a woman who was admitted to hospital around Beni and on discharge had recovered from the original complaint, but on discharge came down with a fever and other symptoms that were clinically consistent with Ebola. And later on, 7 of her direct relatives also contracted the disease. We know, for example, that there have been around 20 deaths, but we can't at this stage confirm whether they are all probable or confirmed Ebola cases. We expect, however, that the overall case count will rise in coming days to weeks based on the trajectory of epidemics at this stage in their development.
Salama also explained how long-standing conflict in eastern DRC involving more than 100 armed groups created an additional level of difficulty in trying to contain the deadly disease.
It's going to be a very, very complex operation, as I mentioned earlier, on the scale of degree of difficulty. Trying to extinguish an outbreak of a deadly high-threat pathogen in a war zone reaches the top of any of our scales.
The development comes just over a week after the UN agency declared the last Ebola episode over, some 2,500 miles away to the west in DRC's Equator province. That outbreak led to 33 deaths, but was contained after a massive international and national response. According to the UN Health Agency, there is no evidence to suggest a link between the two outbreaks, although it appears likely that they share the same deadly Zaire strain.
It's good news and it's very bad news. The bad news is that this strain of Ebola carries with it the highest case fatality rate of any of the strains of Ebola, anywhere above 50% and higher according to previous outbreaks. So it's the most deadly variant of the Ebola virus strains that we have. That's the bad news. The good news is that we do have, although it's still an investigational product, a safe and effective vaccine that we were able to deploy last time round.
Meanwhile, over in Brazil, they started an immunization campaign to vaccinate 11 million children against measles, which the health ministry believes has resurfaced because of the number of Venezuelans fleeing the political and economic crisis. Take a look.
Sim, basicamente esse vírus entrou no Brasil, inicialmente através da Venezuela, né, atingindo então Roraima e atingindo Manaus, mas esse vírus, temos também outros venezuelanos que se dirigiram a outros estados.
Com certeza, muito preocupada, é muito triste você ver doenças que já tinham desaparecido e está voltando, né? É muito triste. Cadê o nenenzinho? Vamos colocar um serinho? Tchau. 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 Pega, não esquece a música.
And here's Ben Bernaldez for our sports news.
In tennis, Serena Williams says she is suffering from postpartum emotions as the 23-time Grand Slam winner struggles to deal with juggling family life and tennis. The 36-year-old American is seeking to regain her top form after missing most of the 2017 WTA season due to her pregnancy. Williams' disclosure comes a week after she suffered the worst loss of her career in San Jose, losing the final 12 games in a shocking 6-1, 6-0 first-round upset to unseeded Johanna Konta. Williams said she is trying to work through her despair by sharing her feelings with family and friends. Organizers announced on Saturday that Williams was withdrawing from this week's WTA Montreal tournament, citing personal reasons. Williams battled back from life-saving surgery after giving birth to daughter Olympia in September, reaching the final at Wimbledon, where she was beaten by Germany's Angelique Kerber. Williams had a tough draw in Montreal. Her opening match would have been against Frenchwoman Alice Cornet, who has defeated Williams 4 out of 6 times when they have faced each other. If she advanced past Cornet, her next opponent would have been Kerber. In Philippine basketball, the Barangay Ginebra team that has been pretty solid in the last 2 games, relentless in Game 4 and relentless in Game 5, goes for the jugular against embattled title holder San Miguel Beer Wednesday, taking the first of its 2 shots at nailing the PBA Commissioner's Cup crown at the MOA Arena in Pasay City. A victory by the Gin Kings in Game 6 of the best-of-7 title playoff will effectively end the Beermen's perfect ride in PBA finals in the last 4 years and stretch Ginebra's own unbeaten run to 3 in the last 6 conference. The game will tip off at 7 p.m. with Ginebra's diehard fans expect to fill up the MOA Arena to rally the Kings to repel unexpected tough challenge by Junmar Fajardo and his teammates. Ginebra coach Tim Con said they don't want to go to Game 7 and they don't want to play San Miguel in a winner-take-all match. The Kings took the pivotal 3-2 lead in the series on the 130-100 rout in Game 4 and 87-83 grind-out victory in Game 5. San Miguel Beer coach Leo Osser and his troops, however, are not about to quit, hopeful they can force a rubber match and salvage another crown in addition to their Philippine Cup fourth peat and their Governor's Cup title reign in 2015.
Well, I think we have to move forward and we have to plan it, and then we will watch the tape. So, kung saan kami nagkaroon ng advantage, yung weakness namin, anong coach namin, and we will see come Wednesday. And it's a matter of it's a mind over matter na to.
But Cone insists they will do their best not to prolong the series.
We'll go for it. We know, obviously we don't want to go to Game 7 with now that we have an advantage, we don't want to go to a Game 7 with San Miguel. They're just too good and too explosive, and any given night could put up 140 points. I thought our defense tonight was, our defense and offensive tempo were really key tonight in terms of keeping that score a little lower.
The Kings, however, do expect a tough resistance from the defending champions. And these are the stories for UN Sports. I'm Ben Bernaldez, and I'm 1 with 25.
Culture and creativity turned up the heat as part of the city of Perth's Winter Fest. Our EBC correspondent from Australia, Angelo Deriada, reports from Perth.
Perth residents of all ages gather at Hagan Square and all over Central Business District to enjoy Winterfest 2018, which encourages participants to indulge in various cultural and creative activities during Western Australia's short-lived winter season. The annual festivity opened on June 30th and is meeting its close on July 29th. Event goers are free to enjoy an array of leisurely activities such as creative performances, theatrical arts, comedic storytelling, movie screenings, live entertainment, and free workshops for children. The festival features a 12-meter wide dome in Hagan Square, where most of the Winterfest performances are held. This landmark is accompanied by brightly colored laneways that lead city's visitors through the rows of restaurants and cafes around Hagan Square. Just 6 minutes from Hagan Square, the Annex Shopping Center displays its enchanting light arrangement, the Winter Constellation, and Hay Street Mall with the cloud canopy light artwork. The Plaza Arcade's laneway umbrella, the Snow Mall at the west of Hay Street Mall, and the LED rainbow under the Horseshoe Bridge all join the list of Perth's landmarks that add to Winterfest's uniqueness. In addition, the SciTech Science Museum held its Element of Surprise exhibit at the Dome, while the Perth Center for Photography in King Street also offers winter workshop photography sessions. The surreal view of Perth City is topped off with layers of beautifully arranged lights and artworks. With man-made snow to make up for the lack of snow precipitated here in Perth, Winterfest 2018 truly makes winter a lot more enjoyable and exciting for Perth residents. Reporting for Eagle News International here in Perth, Western Australia, I am Angela Deriada, and I am 1 with 25.
And here's a visit to an aircraft museum in Europe. Christian Fanner takes us to the Hangar 7 in Salzburg, Austria, which hosts a collection of historical airplanes and serving as home for the Flying Bulls, a private aircraft fleet stationed in Salzburg. Watch this.
Hi everyone. If you're near Salzburg in Austria, you might want to visit Hangar 7 exhibition admission free.
Hangar 7 first opened its doors in August of 2003 and has become home of the Flying Bulls aerobatics team, who perform aerial stunts with either planes or helicopters. This modern aircraft hangar is made out of 1,200 tons of steel and 380 tons of special glass. 1,754 different sized glass panes were made to perform the structure of the building, which covers a total area of 4,100 square meters. The visit of the historical vehicles inside the dome is admission free. Get close to the carbon fiber wingsuit designed for Felix Baumgartner as he crossed the strait between England and France. Or marvel at the vehicles used at Formula 1, motorbikes racing, and aerial exhibitions.
Although you weren't able to sit inside the historical cars and helicopters, it was still fun though, and it was a great experience. I'm here at Hangar 7, Austria, Salzburg. I'm Christian Fanner and I'm one with 25.
Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Christian. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr. Also check out our boards on Pinterest and pictures on Instagram. I'm Sam Cepeda. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Alma Angeles and
we're one with 25.